Cedric Maxwell Podcast is powered by PrizePicks and the GameTime app.
Back with another episode of the Cedric Maxwell Podcast. I am Josue Pavón alongside Cedric Maxwell, of course, and we got a very special guest to get you ready for the regular season, guys. Finally, preseason's over. We got Keith Pompey from the Philadelphia Inquirer to preview the Eastern Conference and, of course, the rest of the NBA. How you doing, Keith, man? Appreciate you coming by.
I'm doing well. What's up, fellas?
You better keep that damn same energy when you just had on the air a minute ago. You were talking some shit. I
said, the Knicks going to come out the East.
The same energy you had before. I always said, if you hold them back, you said, Knicks going to beat that ass. What?
So, Keith, you've been pro Philly for as long as I've known you. You know what I mean? And I mean that in a good way, right? I don't mean that as like you're a fan or whatever, but I feel like you've always been like giving them the benefit of the doubt. This is the best team Joel Embiid's had, if you ask me. So why the doubt going into the season?
You know what? Here's the thing. I think that, the Sixers are good. Right now, this preseason, though, Joel Embiid hasn't played yet. And I get it. They're talking about they want to rest him for the playoffs. And then you saw PG go down against Atlanta. So he hasn't played. And, right now, a lot of the talk is saying that, Joel Embiid is not going to play on back-to-back. So that's at least, they got 15 back-to-backs. So he's going to miss at least 15 games. They're saying PG isn't going to play in all the back-to-backs, right? So to me, on paper, the Sixers are good, but it comes down to continuity. And how many times have you seen teams go into the playoffs and they don't have the continuity? That's why a lot of those in-season trades don't work, right? For teams trying to win, because you're bringing somebody in there and you're trying to say, okay, we got to turn it around. I think that when you look at the team like the Boston Celtics, now granted, the Sixers are good, but when you look at a team like the Celtics, they basically brought everybody back. So they know how to play. They play with each other. You look at the New York Knicks, they made upgrades, right? And these guys are playing together. My only concern with the 76ers is a catch-22. Do you want Joel Embiid to get hurt? You don't. But at the same time, when you're like resting them, what is going to be the team's identity? Is the team going to know what their identity is late in the season and the playoffs? So that's where I have some, reservations about the Sixers. And I feel like a team like Boston and New York, because of that, are going to come. So here's the problem. Let's just say Joel Embiid is healthy, right? If the Sixers don't get, in my opinion, if they don't get a top 2 spot in the East, it's going to make the road tough for them because they lose home court advantage in the second round, right? And so, but if you're basically going to forfeit these games, so to speak, by not playing Joel, well, then that sounds like you're going to be at best a 3rd or 4th place team. And then we're getting in a different animal when you talk about now you got to battle with Milwaukee, you got to battle with Indiana. So even though you have talent, I just feel like your playoff first and second round opponents are going to be a whole lot tougher.
I mean, I think that is really good, what you're talking about, and I do it. I think there's a continuity that forms with almost every team, and especially with the 76ers. And you say you go through the first half of the season and you're not playing with, Maxey is the guy, your man. Maxey's your man. Maxey's playing. And all of a sudden you said, well, let's turn the ball over to Joel Embiid. You do have to have that balance. You have to have that smoothness. You have to be able to trust the guy. And not to say Joel Embiid isn't one of the best out there, but man, that's really fragile. You can think about the Celtics right now and you say, well, you're not going to have Kristoff or you're not going to have Al all those games. But you're talking about those 2 power forwards and those 2 guards, which have been, the heart and soul of what you do. It's almost a luxury for the Celtics to say they're going to rest those 2 guys, where it's a necessity that you have Joel Embiid back. And And I just can't believe Jay is going. He's that old now. When you said 14 years, I was thinking like he was like in his 10th year or something. But man, the time is flying by. I do understand that. The Knicks, I have to question that one thing you said, because I want to, we always try to keep it real on this damn podcast.
Yeah.
We really do. You said it was an upgrade. I'm not sure upgrade to what, because one thing they lose toughness, and they lose smartness. And when Hartenstein leaves and he's not there, he was a beast. He was a bitch last year, in the paint, getting second chance opportunities. And DiVincenzo was arguably the second best player and the most important player that they had last year from a standpoint of attitude. And we know how Knicks fans get behind their players. How quickly will they turn on Karl Anthony Towns if he's 0 for 6 and still chucking up threes? Because that's a real different fan base. The only fan base I know that might be meaner than that might be the 76ers.
Yeah,
so,
Sixers.
So when you talk about an upgrade with the Knicks,
it's neck and neck.
I gotta question that.
Yeah,
And I'll ask you that very question. Hartenstein was a guy who run through a damn wall. If there was a fire out there, Hartenstein, to get that basketball, he would run through it. What I know about Karl Anthony Towns, if there was a fire out there, he'd go get a damn glass of water and something to spray it down before he started going. He wouldn't run straight through it. So that's the difference between those two players.
Yeah, what I mean is an upgrade. So I'm thinking. So now, in a perfect world, if you're the Knicks, your team would have been, keeping Randall, keeping DiVincenzo, but having Hartenstein, right? But I think when they lost him, and then when Thomas Robinson went down, it's kind of like one of those things where you look at it and like, we don't really have a center. So what I mean by upgrade from what they had. Now, unfortunately, when you get rid of a guy, because everybody knew they were like, the Randall situation was kind of like, is this really going to work? You know what I mean? As far as from a locker room standpoint, guys getting along. So when people know you're trying to get rid of someone, you got to give up someone to get what you want. Yeah. So they lost DiVincenzo, which I will say is a loss. But when I'm talking about an upgrade, so now you have a center. The one thing about the center is when you said his personality, I think in the past, when Randall was there, no one had really knew who the leader of the locker room was, or he didn't know. He thought it was him. Well, right now it's going to be Brunson, right? But when I'm talking about upgrade is now you do have a stretch big who can play, right? Because they didn't have one before that. Now, also, what I talk about the upgrade is I think that Mikal Bridges defensively and then OG, those are two guys who can be wing defenders, so to speak, and play well. Now, they still do have Josh Hart, who's a tough guy. But, yeah, in the perfect world, you would have brought back that team from last year, Hartenstein. But once he got the bag elsewhere, I felt like they lost a lot. And not Thomas Robinson, Mitchell Robinson. I feel like they lost a lot, especially when he went down. You know what I mean? Because they don't even know when he's coming back. So they really didn't have a center. So that's what I mean as an upgrade. But yeah,
let me ask you this, since you're saying that. What black person knows is a perfect world? What the fuck? Black person.
What you mean?
The perfect world.
Well,
I got a black man saying it's a damn perfect world. What
in the perfect world? Yeah.
Out of all that, you got from that, damn, Max.
Josue, we keeping it 100, okay?
No, that's cool. Perfect world, yeah. Well, I mean, I guess you got me.
You got him there.
Yes, you got a point.
You got me on that one.
This episode of the Cedric Maxwell Podcast is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going to go off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinion into real money all season long on PrizePicks. I got Tyreek Hill this week for more than 97.5 receiving yards and Patrick Mahomes for less than 267.5 passing yards. Download the app today and use the code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game. I just feel like New York is doing their best to match up with Boston. And, and credit to them because they've done it in a way where, the moves from last year coincided with what happened this summer. I mean, look, Hartenstein, obviously the Knicks fans love him. He was such a big part of what they were doing last year, but they didn't give him the contract. You know what I mean? Like that was something I feel like sort of slipped through their fingers. But the way they sort of, rebounded with this trade, I mean, I'll be honest, when I first learned about it, I'm thinking to myself, this could be a huge come up for the Timberwolves, right? But I don't think necessarily, it's the roster looks worse than it did before the trade, if that makes sense. Like, I just think the Knicks, because of guys like Brunson, because of Bridges, who, if you ask me, man, those are guys who you're going to rely on big time all season long. Guys who they want to match up against, any opposing wings, especially the Jaylen Browns and Tatums and all that stuff. So I just feel like, again, in terms of their depth and their identity, that's the team to look out for Philly. I think those are the 2 teams outside of Boston.
I believe that, but I also believe that when you think about that team, the guys that both you guys have named, the people you've named so far, here's the thing they have in common. All those guys need the ball to be better. The guys that you look at before that left didn't need the ball to be. Hartenstein didn't need the ball. I'm going to get the ball. Whereas you look at Karl Anthony Towns, I need the ball. I need let me use that ugly word that they use in basketball. I need my touches right now. I got to have my touches. Bridges has to have his touches. And what we know is that the guy who has the ball all the time in his hands is the point guard. Is he be able to distribute and tips to get everybody involved? I think that's going to be the key to what the Knicks are going to do. Get a glimpse of it. You can get into an arms race with another team and thinking that, like, I want to do this and I want to do that. It's like you having a house and then going like, yo, man, they got to, what they put Rudolph out on their lawn and then they did this and they put Casper out there and you keep putting shit out. And next thing you know, your electric bill ain't being paid. You're like, that shit ain't working now. It's like, and there's a combo in there of things when you talk about trying to be like the Joneses that sometimes gets in your way. Now, this Karl Anthony Towns thinks it could work, but he needs the ball and he's going to have to get off to a good start in New York because those fans right now are going to roast this. If he doesn't, those fans are going to roast him because he's already said, I'm the best shooting 7-footer in the world. I put Porzingis out there before I put him out there. So you're talking about 7-footers. So slow your roll, big fella. I know what you can do, and the thing that I look for the Knicks, what they've always put their heads on, they've been tough. That's last year what got them where they were going. They were tough as fucking nails. And Hartenstein they came into the Garden and they ran through the Celtics in one of those games because they were just tougher. Hartenstein got all these little rebounds. And you know, it was just crazy. But, you know, I got to ask you guys a question, and I don't even need to move beyond this, but I saw an interview today, a reel, and what was the young man's name? The young man plays for the Lakers right now, and he was their point guard.
D'Angelo Russell?
Who? No. He was
talking about the rookie.
Yeah.
The rookie from Xavier.
Yeah. Like, what the hell is that?
When he was crying.
He's crying because I met Steph Curry. Am I confused here? I mean, I understand the emotion of the game, but I've never seen that before in my life. And if you guys don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
There was a young rookie for the Lakers, and they showed a clip of him, and they asked him a question, and he talked about meeting Steph Curry, and he said, "Man, that was my favorite player." And man, I met him, and he gave me his shoes, and I dreamed of him.
No, we put you alone, man.
I have a jersey, and I'm like, dude, he would be roasted. He would get his ass roasted any place else. No,
imagine being in the locker room looking at him like,
oh, what the? Just wait. That's the time you go, what were you doing? If I'm a veteran, I'm going, oh no, son. He is a competitor. And I did that, and I remember that me doing that with Dr. J, looking at him.
Oh yeah, that was
the time I guarded him. I told people, I said, I might as well have been a maitre d', because I ain't even never touched the guy. I'm like, hey man, this way. Damn, that was another nice move, Doc. But I never said that shit on camera, though.
I was about to say, you about to get ran out of Boston.
Yeah, I mean,
like of all people.
I mean, how do you feel about that? Or am I just being?
I thought the same. I was like, yo, like I understand you're excited, but you in there like crying. And you know the backstory is one of those things where like for Christmas he got the jersey when he was a kid. The Clippers, the Warriors came to his town, and he was there with the jersey, and Steph signed it, and he did like that. You see video of him just looking at it like, oh wow, and I get all that, but you're right. It's kind of like, you know, normally the difference is, and correct me if I'm wrong, y'all, but when you grow up, you got to have that confidence to whereas even though they might be your idols, something inside you saying, I want to go at this dude. I want to get him. Yeah. Like I have arrived. Like, you know what I mean? And him, it was, you know, one of those things where he was in awe. And if you're a veteran in the locker room, it's kind of like, yo, bro, you do know we might face them in the playoffs.
Come here, man.
Can we mention the fact that they beat them by like 30, 48 points? How much was it? Like they put a whoop on. I know it's preseason.
You know that you gotta guard them. You know, they might switch on you. What you gonna do? Like he just gave them the advantage. Yeah.
They didn't even score 75 points. Like, yeah, I'm with you, man. If I'm the veteran, I'm like, really, man? You over there talking about you crying over your idol? Like
that to me this morning, I said, I know we're doing a podcast, and I said, I got to ask you guys about that, because I was like, my eyes started, I was like, is he crying? I mean, you know, they said no crying in bed.
When you heard his voice crack, you're like,
he's about to cry.
And he even went like this and stopped for a second. And everybody was looking at him and checked it out. I was like, oh.
I mean,
I looked at it.
Maybe it's the most sensitive moment, and maybe us old heads right now, maybe we don't have the sensitivity. But if I was on that team, if I'm LeBron James, and I would love to see what LeBron James says about that. Like there are people who idolize LeBron and played against him, but I've been damned if I've seen any of them crying.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we lost your mic.
That hasn't happened at all. So that's funny as hell.
But to think about it, like the stuff has changed over the years. I mean, you know, back in the day, like you didn't like pose for pictures. Like if you had a bull and like y'all went to college together, it was like, you know what I mean? You might see him later, but it wasn't one of those things where you wanted to be seen out with your college teammate the night before the game or after the game. You know what I mean? It was just different. It was like, oh I'll get back. We'll hook up on the off season or something.
You're right. I get that. Maybe that's what's happening now, and I'm getting desensitized to it, and the fact that on one end, when you see guys during my era, nobody was posing with somebody else's jersey on the court. Yeah. I mean, that just didn't happen. Now, okay, you're posing with somebody's jersey. You're going to a party later on in the Hamptons with the dudes hanging out. But now you're fucking crying when you see the guy. That to me, we going, I just didn't like it. It just, and maybe again, that's just me. Maybe me and not being sensitive to whatever it is, but I guess I played in another era. And I got this gray on my face for a reason, but damn, I looked at that and I could not have. I was stunned. I was just when I heard him get it emotional, I was okay, okay. But when he started wiping his damn eyes, I said, "Oh hell no, hell no, we got to talk about this shit. Oh hell no."
What if it just crept up on him? Like if you were in that situation, what would you do? Like you can't control that. You can't be like, all right, let me turn this off.
It didn't creep up on him. It came like a speeding car. You could see
it. He got off the podium right away.
You're like, yo, my man, turn the mic off or something, because it was like he went from stuff. Yeah, hey, how was it when played against it? Oh my God, that meant everything, and I met Steph, and that. Then he went into, he was my favorite player. And then I had his jersey and I put it in my bed and I slept on it. And he's everything. And then he started wiping his fucking eyes. I was like, man, you got to be.
I know Keith would have had like 2 balls. Would keep the tears rolling, like rolling.
I'd have had my camera like.
What do you think our guy would have done from Boston right now if he'd been doing the interview? What do you think we'd done, Josue, our news reporter, our big Gary? What do you think Gary would have done?
He would have wrote a column clowning at you, wouldn't he? Don't you think?
Yeah,
he might have turned it into a bestseller. He's writing books now.
Yeah, that's a great question. But speaking of the Lakers, Keith, what's this team going to look like at this season? Do they get Zach LaVine? Do they get? We were throwing out bold predictions a couple weeks ago. I was talking about Jimmy. I don't know if Jimmy stays in Miami. I mean, if we're doing bold predictions, that's mine. But what's your take on the Lakers, man? I don't think this team's gonna look the same that it does right now by the season.
I don't think they look the same either. But my thing is, like, what do they have to get like a big name player? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what other assets do they have? And let's face it, and I hate to say this, but the Lakers, I am going to say it, but like, in the perfect world, it's like, nah, we play. But like, the Lakers aren't the team that they used to be. You remember, like, back in the day, like most NBA players, because it was LA, and then you hear the Lakers mystique, you know what I mean? All that stuff. Guys like, I want to go there. I don't see too many players saying they want to go to LA now anymore. I just don't. Like, I mean, so yeah, you may get somebody, but you think the person is going to resign there? Like, do you think that? I don't see the Lakers as a team that can make 1 or 2 moves and then all of a sudden you're going to say they're going to win a championship, right? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, you're just living in LA. Yeah. And most of those guys live there in the off season anyway, right? So, I'm not. No, I'm not. Like, I feel like right about now, like the Lakers, we talk about them a lot. Either it's because of Bronny James, is it because of JJ Redick being the coach? Now they're talking about a guy crying. There's always LeBron. There's always AD.
Leave Quincy alone.
But when we talk about it, what are they? The last couple of years, they've been a play-in team. That's what they are. And they did make it to the Western Conference Finals. And then it's always a revolving door with the coaches, too. Like, they go in there and they, like, it just doesn't work out. So, I don't know. They can try to make a trade, but I don't know, man. Like, that's not one of those places nowadays that I'm saying if I'm a player, I'm dying to get there only unless I want to live in LA full time, right? But the taxes are high, everything. I don't know if I want to go there if I'm a player.
Well, the thing you do know about it, it is Hollywood, and that seems like a Hollywood movie. Hollywood wives, Hollywood basketball. Because now, and I am so in awe of LeBron James because he is so great and he's done so many things in this league that it puts him. If he's not the best, he damn near is right next to the best. But what it does also is the fact that with LeBron James, he's holding that franchise hostage, and they can't move. They can't move beyond him, and they can't move with him, and they seem like they're stuck in one place. And that to me is really, and as a Celtic fan, I love it. I absolutely, because all those guys kind of have to drink the Kool-Aid and all that stuff. And you look at the reporters when they talk about, and I think I was looking at one of the games, and Stu, who I know well, I could say, and then he got to the point, here it is right here. Bronny and LeBron, they're on the court together. Like, dude, really? Is that, I understand what has to be said, but that to me is one of those things where you look at that franchise, as great as they've been, until somebody decides to pull the plug, I don't think they're going. I don't foresee them going any place, especially with those teams out in the Eastern Conference, in the Western Conference. I just can't see them move beyond that.
And here's something else to say, like you said, LeBron's holding them hostage, but it's also one of those things is if you go in there and you're going to be the player, if they win the championship, you're not going to get any recognition for it. But if they lose, you're going to be the reason why they lost. So that's a tough spot to go to. And like you said, it is Hollywood, it is this and that. But you look at it, they did get the bubble championship, right? They did get the bubble championship. But you look at like them and the Celtics, right? The two most storied franchises in the NBA. Well, the Celtics just won the chip. The Celtics was at the chip 2 years ago, or you know what I'm saying, a couple years ago, and they were playing in like Eastern Conference Finals, right? They just couldn't get over the hump. Right. Whereas, and they got younger players, younger star players than the Lakers. Like I just don't see it, man. I don't. And like you can say, you're a player and you don't want to live in said city, what have you. Well, nowadays dudes don't have to. They just go somewhere, rent out a spot for X amount of months, and then they fly home when the season is over. So just saying you want to go to LA and all that, I just don't see the attraction until maybe they just blow it up and start anew and get new people there. And then people like, okay, well, this is the Lakers. People are going to want to come here. But right now, I don't see a lot of people, like you said, want to go there and play with LeBron right now. I just don't see it.
What do you think about the Phoenix Suns? Because obviously you got those 3 stars. You wonder what the rest of the team's going to look like. And also, you're like, man, do they have any other options? Like in terms of they're really restricted in terms of cap and all that, and just trying to improve the roster. It's not easy for these guys, but you still got guys out there, or at least one person I know, in Kendrick Perkins, calling them a dark horse to win the championship. I'm like, it's tough out there in the West, man. Like I don't, as Max shakes his head, like I don't see a path. I don't see that happening, to be honest, right? But you look at those 3 stars, and you're like, how are they going to be able to put this thing together again this year, coming off of what happened last year?
Yeah, and the problem with that team is when we look at it, you're right. You look at these power teams, right? You look at the Miami Heat back in the day when they won. You look at other squads. The teams that had success were guys who had dudes who kind of like played different positions or played like different roles, right? Mm-hmm. Or you had your stars and you surrounded them with elite role players, right? Like all-star quality role players, if that makes sense, right? Like talking about a Drew Holiday, talking about a Derek White, stuff like that. When you look at this team, we talked about all 3 guys needing the ball. That's what they need. I mean, like if you go back 5 years ago, one of them was 3rd in the league in scoring, the other one was like 4th in the league, and the other one might have been 6th. Well, when you play together, you're not going to be that way. So at least two of them are losing their impact, or at least one. So I felt like that was a bad fit. And of course they blamed it on the coach. But when you go ahead and you go out and get these guys 3 max players, well, then you got essentially a bunch of mid-level exception guys and a lot of like minimum salary guys in there. And it's hard to win that way, especially when one of them, like when one of them's not a point guard, another one's not a center. It's basically you got 3 wings and somebody got to get them the ball. And one of them is extremely ball dominant. So you know what? A lot of people say what they want to say, and it sounds good to say that they're a dark horse, right? And who knows, maybe they are if the coach can get it together. But the problem is, I think that you got 3 dudes who play the same way, and all 3 of them need the ball, especially Bradley Beal, right? When he was in Washington, he was the dude. So I don't see them. No, I don't see them coming out of the West. I like when you got Dallas, right? It just changed it a little bit. So you got Dallas, you got 3, you got we already know what Luka is, right? But then you got Kyrie, who gave up a little bit, right? But now you're bringing in another shooter that's going to help space the floor. But at the same time, they do have role players helping them. Then you look at Oklahoma City. So I think Phoenix, they got caught up with a lot of teams have been doing lately. Let's go out there and get big name dudes. We don't know how it's going to work out, but it's all about we're going to get them. It's like playing fantasy basketball. And I felt like that's what the Phoenix Suns
why don't you use your line, man? Black man in the perfect world. Why don't we go there?
It ain't too many black men out there, though.
No.
I'll be honest, there is nothing like taking in a live basketball game, especially in the fourth quarter, down the stretch, being in that atmosphere and seeing it all play out right in front of you. There's nothing like it. And with the basketball season back, there is no other place better than GameTime. That doesn't just have you covered for sports, but any type of concert or other events going on in town, you don't want to miss out with GameTime, especially with their new feature called GameTime Picks, and that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. GameTime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. You can pick an upcoming game on the app, you can browse through the seats because of GameTime Picks. Super deal gives you the absolute best price around, and you can even customize your spot so you know exactly what to expect ahead of the event. The curated deals make it easier to find the best price on great seats, and that's my favorite part of the app. Plus, you get the seat views before you buy, lowest price guaranteed, event cancellation protection, which is big, right? Job loss protection, etc. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and redeem the code CLNS for $20 off. Download GameTime today. What time is it? Game time.
Yeah, no, I just feel like that era is over, man. You can't just put 3 stars together. I mean, clearly the NBA is trying to stop second apron and all that, but even before that, like it was like organically the rest of the league had caught up in the sense of, okay, we can't get perennial all-stars or whatever, so to speak, but let's get everything else. Let's get a supporting cast for our maybe 1 or 2 all-stars and then go from there. And I feel like that's sort of the makeup now, and that's the direction the NBA is going in. Whereas, Ishbrook was just like, no, let's get this guy, let's get that. We got to the finals, we're almost there. Let's just get 2 stars and we'll make it happen. But it just doesn't. The NBA doesn't work like that anymore. I feel like it's not that easy. Well, you know what, just where you did it with Boston when you got KG to come over and play with Paul and Ray. But what KG was he was the ultimate sacrifice guy. Right. Where they were. I don't need the ball to be dominant. And you don't have any of those guys, those 3 guys you talked about, not one of those guys are like, going to say, look, I'm going to sacrifice myself and I'm going to play defense full out the whole time. Right. And I'm going to rebound the whole time. They're more like Cadillac players. And I love Kevin Durant. I mean, he's going to go down as one of the all-time greats. But I think, as you said, not enough. Nobody being a facilitator. Nobody setting the table.
I mean, essentially what you have one of, we can almost, I'll go with my theme from Thanksgiving. You can have the best freaking meal in the world, but if the shit stays in the kitchen, ain't nobody eating it until somebody brings it out and puts it on the table. And that's the way this team is built. They have some of the best guys out there. The ingredients are great, but putting it together and getting it to the table, to the people to eat it, that's where they have their problem with me.
Exactly. And another thing, when you talked about that Boston team, also Ray Allen is like, because remember, Ray was the man. Like, and then he came there, and it was kind of like everybody's like, they knew he could shoot threes, but that's when he started really, you know what I mean, thriving in that way. Like, so they had roles, and I don't know how many dudes nowadays especially on that Phoenix team, where you say, all right, bro, your role is just to get in the corner and stretch the floor, right? Mm-hmm. They're not going to want to do that. They're just not. It's also a different era too, man. It's an era now where dudes become all-stars based off of how many points they score and stuff like this, and they get these contracts and they play a certain style, and then you go to a competitive team and you don't know how to play team ball. Unfortunately, you just know how to go out there and get buckets, and it's not all about getting buckets.
Well, how is our team at, Josue is, going to cover them now. Your team at OKC, Josue.
OKC, man. Keith, I don't know if you know.
Feel about them?
Oh, yeah, have fun. You're going to have fun out there. Yeah.
Find the next black person that looks like you out there. That might be your only.
Yo, don't say that, man. I haven't even been to OKC. It's not that bad.
You haven't been there yet? Oh,
no. When people from Oklahoma, they're like, whoa. But I'm like, wait, no, it's Oklahoma City, though.
It gets kind of cold out there, though. It's like, so it gets really cold out there. But it's all right. It's a Latino
section, so I'm excited for that. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, man, new chapter. We haven't talked about it on the air, but we talk about it all summer. But yeah, it's something I'm very excited about for sure. But yeah, I mean that's another team. I mean, again, you look at we were just talking about the depth and guys knowing their roles and all that. Young, right? They're all 26 and under, and they made this humongous stride last year. I feel like, and you look at teams like the Suns and you're like, or the Lakers, like, how could they even compete in a series against teams like that? Like they're so established now, whereas the other teams are so leaning on their aging superstars.
Yeah, the only how they could beat them at that last year was because playoff basketball is different, and then sometimes you got to go in there and experience it. You know what I mean? Like you got to once you get past that first round, it's just okay, because the first round 10 is like. If you're the top seed, you expect to beat the 8th seed, but then the play-in team. But outside of that, it just becomes a different brand of ball, and they went through those growing pains. You know what I mean? But the one thing is, you got to also realize, that's also a team. It's a young team, but it's a team where everyone knows who the man is too, and they're comfortable with who the guy is. Now, when you start getting those squads where everybody think that it's me, and it's not him, it's me, then that's when you have a problem. But everybody knows it's all about SGA, and the rest of them just filling in, knowing that, what? If I just grab rebounds, if I defend, if I hit these open shots, play hustle, in this town, I'm gonna I don't have to pay for a meal as long as I'm here, and I'm gonna be the man. Like, you know what I mean? That's what it's all about. That's old school basketball to me.
Are we missing out and not talking about the team that won the championship before in Denver with possibly the best player in the league in Jokic? And are we not still talking about Minnesota after the strides that they made and Ant-Man coming on the scene saying, I'm that dude now. I'm that dude. He's saying I can lock you up and then I can beat your ass on offensive end. That to me is going to be fascinating to see how those two teams that we don't really talk about. And then also we talk about the Lakers all we want to, but there's another team down in New Orleans that's pretty damn good down there. So how the Lakers even think about this, and to see Golden State, what they're able to do, Houston getting better every time. And let's not forget the Frenchman down in San Antonio. What is he going to be like this year in his second time around? So the Lakers, to me, they're an afterthought when I start thinking about they're a soap opera, there are all these other things, but the real story is start looking at those other teams out there that that can really give some people some problems.
Yeah, I agree with you, and because we're right. We didn't even talk about Minnesota. I mean, we didn't talk about the other ones. Now, the one thing I will say about Minnesota played the 76ers in Des Moines, Iowa, the night before the Sixers played Boston, and they rested their starters in the preseason, and they had fits with them. Now, again, it's a preseason game, and I know the morning shoot around for a preseason game is like the first day of a two-a-day, right? You know what I mean? The first practice of a two-a-day.
Right.
But when you looked at it and you saw the length, you saw as far as with the defenders that they have and the aggressiveness, and you also saw DiVincenzo, right? Having that, they traded me. Even though it wasn't the team that traded him, he still is holding a chip. And they didn't even have Randall or had Rudy. But at the same time, just their guard play, their perimeter play, and the post guys that they have, like the other guys, they look like a team to be reckoned with. They do. And then the one thing about New Orleans that scares me is that Big Boy lost all that weight, right? He looks good. I mean, he looks good. I'm like, yo.
That's our boy Stephen A. Smith. Man, he did that on this podcast, and I feel like it really whipped him.
And that is that. Now this Josue, this is when I feel like he's keeping it real right now, because this is how brothers be talking. Damn Big Boy down there. Don't even give his name out. Big Boy lost all that damn weight. Yo, big dude.
He did. Did you? So I'm like, yo.
He done backed away from all that Popeye's chicken down there and all that, French cuisine and all that
gumbo
food and made his way into the gym, because obviously he can't carry that weight. You can't carry that weight later in your career. You think about Charles Barkley. When Charles Barkley was in Philly, he was shamed by Moses Malone. Moses Malone called it that. And you hear Charles Barkley's story and said, I cried. He said, Moses said,
his hero called him fat.
Meet me here at this gym at a certain, and I'm gonna run with you every day, and we're gonna lose weight. And when Charles Barkley really became Charles Barkley, he was great in Philly. But when he went down to Phoenix and lost all that weight, man, he became like one of the most dominant players ever to play the game at that position.
Right. Yeah, he was. And we're talking about the guy talking about Zion. And I'm gonna say this. I remember
call him that dude. Just call him
big boy from South Carolina, eating all that rice and all that stuff in South Carolina. Right. So come on. You know you from North Carolina. You know the people in South Carolina love their rice. Yeah, they love their rice and all that where it's from. So the thing is, I remember they played the Sixers, and I want to say it was because his rookie year, I think he didn't play against them because he was hurt or something like that. But it was his second year. And we go down there, man, and they had Ben Simmons guarding him. Oh, my gosh. He was destroying Ben. And at that time, everybody was like, Ben Simmons, elite defender, this and that, And he was just so much stronger than them and explosive. So then they put Embiid on him. Embiid couldn't do anything with him either. He was Embiid was about to foul out. And then all of a sudden they put Tobias Harris on him. Now Tobias was getting beat down too, but he was trying. So it was like after the game, we was all like, good one, man. Good one. I'm telling you, when he comes to play, it's just and he lost weight. So it's like that power. He's extremely powerful. Remember back in the day when Shaq was breaking stuff and everything like that? He has that type of power that he can do the same. But the thing is, like you said, he had, whether it was off the court problems, whether it was eating too much, it was, all that. But it just seemed like he's locked in right now. And who knows? I don't know how far they'll go. I just don't. But because of the other teams we talked about, but he's going to be exciting to watch this year because he was already exciting when he was playing. So I feel like he's going to take a step up.
Is that an ongoing issue across the league? Because I know it's something that Kevin Garnett brought up when he found out he was mad about the whole, report surrounding Joel Embiid not playing in the second night of back-to-backs. And I don't know if he personified his take, so to speak, but he was like, he feels like a lot of NBA players aren't in shape. They're not taking care of themselves during the summer, and that's why there's leading to all these injuries, and you're seeing all these guys getting hurt during the preseason. What's your take on that? You think that's you subscribe to that theory?
Now, I also think it's a different time. Like, it goes back to when we first talked about it. Like, it was one of those things where you didn't show emotion no matter who it was. Like, if it was Michael Jordan, you want to say, oh my gosh, this is Michael Jordan. It's like, what Jay would say? He would say he puts on his jersey just like I do, right? And we just going to go at it. But nowadays, I just feel like, man, think about it. There was never no load management before. It was kind of like you got respect for playing in all the games. Like, it was like, yo, I played in all 82. I did this. You didn't. Like, you would argue. You would literally see players arguing with the coach for taking them out with the last 30 minutes or last 30 seconds in the game. Nowadays, I feel like guys are just like load management. I'm not trying to play as many games. I'm trying to rest. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do that. And I also think that's what leads to a lot of injuries. It's kind of like, like a prime example, and it's the crazy analogy, but when you lifting weights all the time and you getting into it, right, your muscles and everything gets used to it. But then all of a sudden, if you go once a week, then the next day you're like, man, why am I so sore and this and that? Because you're not using your muscles. And it's just a different mentality. Like now, like, I don't know, like you didn't see these many injuries nowadays that you are now. Like now, again, somebody will blow out their knee and they were done, right? But now your technology fix it. But I just feel like it's different, man. I do. Like, covering the NBA now is like, especially 2 seasons ago, where you would show up and it was basically a bunch of bench players because a lot of guys, they played yesterday and we got to do load management, or this guy has this injury. And it was like literally watching games and you didn't know who half these players were. It's just a bad product because guys just don't play. So when he does say that, yeah, it is different era because, and it wasn't that long ago. We're talking about like maybe 12, 15 years ago, if that. Right. But now it's kind of like dudes just don't want to play.
I think there's another aspect that, and we're going to keep it real again, is the fact that if you are a team and your product is out there, especially a Tatum or Brown or, these players, you want that asset to last a lot longer.
True.
And by having a guy being able to play 70 games in a year, and sometimes to me it hurts the product in the fact that if I brought my son to the game and Tatum didn't play, then you especially the average fan, not the black fan. The black fan will be like, oh hell no, you better give my damn money back or something. They be coming at you. But when you start to make a guy's career a priority and keeping them around, I think that's also built into it. The fact we did not see guys in their prime. Now you look at a lot of these guys in their prime, they're in the 11th and 12th year. When I got my 11th and 12th year, I was done. And I looked at Larry Bird. By the time Larry got into 12th and 13th, they were done. Some of the guys we look at right now, they're like in their prime because one, they took care of themselves, and one, there was load management. Larry Bird would throw himself into a damn brick wall and, without even thinking, knowing he couldn't get the ball, but he was just going to just throw his body into it. Whereas now guys are more apprehensive about doing shit like that. And they think about, it's like with looking at Paul George right now, and I understand what they're doing now. If it's 14th year, they're trying to say, okay, we need Paul George for, the playoffs. We need Paul George, playoff Paul George. But as we're saying too, Paul George also has to be in shape, and then there's in shape, and there's also game. And that's one of the things that really you think about when you play in a game and you have all that fluid going through you and you're oiled up, you're ready to go. That's one thing. But when you come in and you play maybe next week, and then I'm gonna play on a Wednesday, but I'm not playing on a Thursday, but I'm playing on a Sunday. Mm-hmm. Your body, as you're saying with your weights, the same thing. It doesn't adjust well. And we think about the best player. I've heard this being said about Kawhi Leonard, the best ugly superstar in that we've ever had in the NBA. Guy who is a superstar, but cannot get on the court. I don't mean ugly in that way. I mean, You guys look. You guys explain things shit that sometimes when you say shit, because people are like, oh, what do you mean? Right. I mean, in his career, you think about where he was with. The way he was with he played with San Antonio, and then what he accomplished up in Toronto. Wow, yeah. This guy got Finals MVP twice on championship teams, and that's not done. But he's gone out to LA, and man, essentially he's been a no-show out there because of all the injuries or whatever's going on with him. I can see Stephen A. Smith when he says, "Man, this is the most overrated." Great player that we have in the NBA, and it's just kind of crazy because now we're not even. At one time, we were thinking about that team when Ty Lue was there and Kawhi, Paul George. We were thinking like, okay, that team is going to be in the finals, but that team has never made that quantum leap.
Yeah, that's the thing. Now, the one thing, if we get back to Joel, right? You know, I guess your argument that like as far as like Larry and them banging themselves up, and you when you got the 12 years. Like him, the problem is he's always banged up too, right? But the problem is
he started out banged up.
He missed his first 2 years. He missed his first 2 years. And then the thing is, people forget his third season, I believe he only played in 33 games. Yeah, and he was fortunate. Like he played in 33 games over that time. And he still got a rookie max extension. So like the life is good, right? But now he's a good player. But the thing is, I feel like you also setting yourself up, right, with the 76ers. Mm-hmm. Because like we talked about in the early on, he's such a different player, right? To whereas when you have that PG style, you have that maxi style, where they want to get out and go and they want to do all this stuff. Well, you got to incorporate him when he comes. The difference between the Celtics and the Sixers are, you know, your all-star players are two wings, right? Tatum and Brown. The other guys are complementary. They're good complementary players, but they are complementary players. So but when Joel comes, it changes everything. And y'all, we talk about fan base in Philly, right? New York and Philly. And Max and y'all both know that this team has to at least get to the Eastern Conference Finals. Mm-hmm. If not, they're going to say this is a failure. And as much as, you know, we can argue about the New York Knicks, the Knicks are a team that could beat the Sixers, right? And if the Sixers, like they saying, we just worrying about the playoffs, and they don't get a good seed and they get bumped in the first or second round, it's going to be a lot of unhappy people in Philadelphia, right? A lot of it. And the thing is, but then I understand why they're doing it. This guy has never been healthy for a postseason. Never. Like, so it is a catch-22 to me. It really is. So we'll see what they do. We'll see.
All right, fellas. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up Banner Night, Garden, Tuesday night, Max. I'm gonna just give you the floor, man. What are you doing?
Ring night, baby. Ring night. I'm not giving nobody the finger. I'm saying this ring night. You know, they called me in. They said, send us your ring size, and you know, it's going to be exciting again. And I always say it's for the rest of the league right now. It's ABC. Anybody but the damn Celtics. Anybody but them. And when
ABC
when the Celtics win it, it's just been to have this banner again, and I have never seen people more sick than the LA fan base. Oh my God, they are sick right now. I mean, everybody that I know, from Worthy to Cooper to Magic and all these guys, Michael Thompson, they are sick right now. And I absolutely love it. I think that's why when Michael Wilborn was talking and I ran behind him, I said, how about them damn Celtics? And I said, bye-bye, Lakers. I love it.
You do that on live television after the finals, man.
Yeah, I saw it. So how many rings do you have now?
I have, this will be number 4. This will be 4.
Number 4.
Away, right?
And still, I'm not caught up with Magic or nothing like that. Magic, the number of rings he won, but I still look at the way these franchises are trending right now. That everybody said once the Lakers caught up with their championships that they add in from Minnesota. There you say they add that in, but they add their championships up. They have the same number. And last year when they won the in-season tournament banner, and they had it up in that building, I looked at it when I went out to LA. I said, that looked really weird up there. You know, they have that banner stuck up there, and they just kind of laughed. I said, but you did win, and they all just bust out laughing. But to have a banner night and to have possibly Bob Cousy come, Kevin Garnett's supposed to be there, Paul Pierce.
That's right. Yeah,
and yours truly is supposed to walk out there on the floor, handing over the trophy. It's going to be one hell of a night. Matter of fact, that night I'm gonna give you a clue here. I'm actually gonna wear a gold suit. This is for the Lakers, but with a green tie on. So I'm gonna hit them where it hurts, buddy. Hit them where it hurts. But the excitement about winning another ring and the Celtics to kind of bypass the Lakers, but I think even bigger is the fact that the Celtics, to me, they have an opportunity to run this thing back with their team. Sean Grandy, my broadcast partner, says this one thing, which I think is so true. He said, "Tell me how many games is Porzingis going to play during the playoffs?" He said, "That'll tell me the story." So if Porzingis is playing all the games in the playoffs, this Celtic team, they're going to be hard to beat. The thing that I do worry about is exactly what we talk about. Is Porzingis coming back? And when he comes back, and how you have to, are you going to change the style of your play to fit Porzingis in? And I really don't think you're going to do that, because even when they won it without Porzingis, they had another style. And everybody, the one thing I will have to say is everybody said, "Oh my God, right now I can't wait for this game when Golden State comes in town," and because Steve Kerr did not play Jason Tatum. I said, I didn't give a shit about that. Steve Kerr's job was to win a gold medal. Right. He did that. And at the end of the day, Jason Tatum doesn't have anything to hold his head down about at all. I said, the young man, I talked to him, Josue. I said, "Yo, man, how you feeling?" He said, "Man, people are talking about you." I said, let me make sure I get this right. You won a championship, NBA championship. You won a gold medal. You got a new contract. You had a new baby. You got married. You're a great looking kid. He said, "Man, I don't know where they coming at, because I am happy as can be." So that to me is a whole nother storyline that comes into play about this year. But ring night, that's going to be a special time.
Yeah, it's crazy. Hey, just to know y'all about ready to go. But did I tell you, as a kid growing up in Philly, we all hated y'all? Did I ever tell you that?
I get haters. Yeah, I know.
No. And I didn't know that people in Boston were cool until I got on the beat and went to Boston. So it was like after the game, a couple of dudes that they was like, "Yo, you want to go out?" So I'm like, "All right, bet." And I'm like, I got home and called my buddies, like, "Yo, man, remember all that stuff we said about the people?" "No, they cool. They cool." I said, and they were like, "What?" I mean, dude, we were like brainwashed to think that y'all were like just me. I mean, it was just crazy.
Wait, let me tell you what you were brainwashed in. You were brainwashed to think that if you went out in Boston, that you're gonna see a guy with a white sheet on his head walking around.
Yeah, that's what it was.
I think that people talk about Boston as racist. And I always said this to everybody. I said, Boston does not hold a monopoly on racism. I was in the league covering this team for now 30 years. It must have been maybe 10 or 12 years ago. I happened to be in Philly during the Mummers Parade. And famous parade they have in Philly. I saw a white guy riding on a motorcycle in blackface. I was like, where? And you guys are talking about Boston. I was like, are you serious? I mean, they don't do it anymore, I heard, but that Mummers Parade, man, I just, that was crazy when they talked about Philadelphia.
Yeah, Josue, both the cities, these cities like are very, very similar in the history, but a lot of people don't want to admit it. Like this was, if we want to go back in history, this was Jackie Robinson's least favorite city to come to.
Wow.
He hated coming to Philly. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, he hated coming to Philly. So the history is similar, but to me, I didn't realize how like some of the diversity. Like I didn't know that, you know, y'all had such a, you know, a Spanish population. I was like, okay. Like, you know what I mean? But you're right. That's what it is. You think of one city and you think of racism, and then you don't realize that the people are welcoming. Now, again, we're in the Northeast. You know where to go and where not to go. People like, you know what I'm saying? It is what it is. But yeah, that's what it is.
They always told me, don't go to Southeast. So they always told me growing up, don't.
Yeah. You know not to. Yeah.
This episode of the Cedric Maxwell Podcast. Keith Pompey, I appreciate you stopping by. Always fun to have you.
You know what, Josue, he kept it fucking real.
Yeah, he really did.
But like at the very end, he kept. We got him up on the right page early on when he started talking about the perfect world for a black man. I'm like, where in the world is? So once we straighten him out, he's been good since then. I gotta give him his props, and you know we want to thank you for coming on with us, man. And you know we always talk about to our listeners and to our viewers, man. You only make us stronger with our podcast, but dude, you've been a treat to have on with us for this particular podcast, and we can't wait to catch up with you again, maybe in mid-season.
It's gonna be a fun season.
Thanks for having me, y'all. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. That's going to do it for this episode of Cedric Maxwell Podcast. See Cedric Maxwell. Once again, thank you to Keith Pompey for joining us. Check out his work at the Philadelphia Inquirer. I am Josue Pavón, and special shout out to my pops, man. Dad's birthday today. I'm going to go celebrate it with him. So I had to get that out there, man, for sure, man. Love you, Dad. I'll see you soon. That's going to do it for the episode.
Man, we don't give no shout outs on my damn podcast, man. What the hell? You get real
at least he ain't crying about his dad. At least he ain't crying. It's my dad's birthday.
My dad's birthday. And
he's a big fan, man. He watches the show religiously. So shout out to Pops. See you soon.
What's going on, everyone? It's Josue Pavón here. If you made it this far, that means you really enjoyed this video. Make sure you follow all of our social media platforms at Celtics CLNS, and of course, follow us here on YouTube.